Good Tuesday morning, everybody. This is Pastor Dean with Bascom Community Church. Thank you for joining me as we continue the devotional series, Hope for the Season You Did Not Choose by Kim Avery and Pace of Grace. We have two scripture readings for today. The first comes from Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 and 24. Lord, bless this, the reading of your word. Work willingly at whatever you do, as though you are working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master that you are serving is Christ. Our second reading comes from Luke chapter 16, verse 10. Jesus spoke these words: "If you are faithful in the little things, you'll be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities." These are the words of God for the children of God. Our devotion today is titled, What Feels Small to Us Still Matters to God. The season that I mentioned yesterday came in a moment, but it felt like it lasted forever. And to go back to this is what she woke up to the morning, and by the afternoon it was all gone. I was deeply involved in a church I loved, teaching a women's Bible study, serving in meaningful ways, and enjoying a sweet season at home with my husband and children. After years of planning, watering, and waiting, it seemed like harvest season had finally come. And that's where we were yesterday again. For heartbreaking reasons, the author, and her husband and her family ended up attending church in a different city. And since her entire ministry and social life had revolved around the local church, it felt like she had moved to a different solar system. Days that had been filled with teaching, with shared family outings, with serving, planning, and the steady hum of meaningful ministry came to a dead halt. And while the busyness slowed down, of course, her questions did not. Lord, did I hear you wrong? Is there no place for my gifts? Have you put me on a shelf? Will I ever serve again? And maybe you know something about that ache. Most of us know some of it. The ache of looking around at your actual life and thinking, this is not what I thought this season would look like. Joseph, again, we've been referring Joseph. Again, this is not Jesus' stepfather Joseph. This is the Joseph from Genesis, may have known that ache also. After being sold by his brothers, he ended up in Egypt, far from his home and far from the life he may have imagined. He was no longer the beloved son in his father's house. He instead was a servant, a slave in Potiphar's house. And yet, tucked inside that painful and unfamiliar season, Scripture tells us something quietly beautiful. This is Genesis 39:2. The Lord was with Joseph as he succeeded in everything he did, as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. And I don't want to rush past that little phrase, as he served. Joseph, he was not suddenly placed in a position of visible influence. He was not handed a microphone, a ministry platform, or even a clear explanation of how this strange detour fit into those dreams that God had given him. He simply served in the house where he had been placed. And that may sound small, especially when it's compared to where Joseph's story would eventually go, but apparently it mattered. It mattered to the people in that house. It mattered to the unfolding of Joseph's story. And most importantly, it mattered to God. That is one of the strange graces of hard, hidden seasons. They often bring our lives down to what is right in front of us. The email that needs an answer, the child who needs care, the parents who need patience, and the quiet responsibility that no one else sees. None of these things may feel like big, beautiful harvests that we had been hoping for. They may not feel inspiring. They may not answer our deeper questions. They may even feel painfully small compared to the life that we thought we would be living. But God is not embarrassed by small faithfulness. Actually, small faithfulness still matters to God. He's not waiting for our lives to look impressive before he meets us in them. Joseph's hidden season did not look like his calling, at least not yet, but God was with him there. And somehow, in ways that Joseph could not have seen at the time, God was still forming him through the fire and the life that was in front of him. Maybe today, the faithful thing in front of you feels small. Maybe it looks like answering the email, washing the dish, making the call, keeping your word, telling the truth, showing up kindly, or doing the next thing with as much love as you can. It may not feel like much, but in the hands of God, small faithfulness is never wasted. Being set aside does not mean being forgotten. Sometimes the small, ordinary place right in front of us is where God meets us. God steadies us, and God forms us for what we cannot yet see. And tomorrow we'll look at what happens when you try to do the right thing and life gets harder instead of better. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one that's been through that too. So we need to remember that, as you read earlier in Paul's writings, that even the smallest things are important, and we need to do them the best we can, but most of all, we need to do them with joy for the glory of God. God bless. Again, as we talked about yesterday, you may be encountering someone today that was going through the worst day of their lives, as we're talking about, where everything that they thought was good, everything was going to be okay, is completely and totally blown up on them. So please just be kind, be patient, be forgiving. Put up with some stuff that you really prefer not to put up with. And just remember, God puts up an awful lot with us. And we need to make sure that we're doing the same thing with other people. God bless, and I shall see you tomorrow morning.